y'all! Welcome to Social Studies with Miss Rogers, World History Edition. Lately in class, we've looked at concepts such as absolutism and the scientific revolution, and these two major aspects of history will lead to a monumental event called the Enlightenment. Just as the scientific revolution encouraged individuals to think for themselves and maybe even question the authority of the church, the Enlightenment caused individuals to question the monarchy, the church, and just society in general. So, let's get started. We know that the scientific revolution occurred due to the growth of learning during the Renaissance. The Renaissance's giant surge of education led to a new way of thinking. Don't only gain knowledge, but search for knowledge. Do not just believe something is the way it is because someone else tells you it is so. Find out for yourself. Experiment, observe, analyze, find the answers you're looking for because you, as a person, are capable of thinking for yourself. This way of thinking spread not only to various subjects such as math and medicine within this scientific revolution, but would advance into a new way of political thinking. This new mentality would find its way into politics and challenge the way individuals perceived society. The concept of challenging all assumptions and using deductive reasoning caused individuals to question, what does it mean to be a person within society? What rights do I, as a human being, have? And what is the purpose of government? Who has the right to be a part of government? And what obligations do we, the people, and the government have towards each other? These are not new questions. These questions have been asked for centuries by philosophers, and some of these questions are still asked to this day. But thanks to the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, people have a new way of looking at these questions. The philosophical movement that will erupt from these questions is called the Enlightenment. Within the Enlightenment, there were many enlightened thinkers who believed they had the answers to these questions, and two of the key players here would be Thomas Hobbes and John Locke on their very contrasting views of government. Thomas Hobbes argued that to escape their bleak lives, people had to hand over their rights to a strong ruler, and in exchange, they gained law and order. Hobbes called this agreement by which people created a government the social contract. Hobbes believed people to be naturally selfish, always acting in their own self-interest. Because of this, Hobbes said the ruler needs total power to keep citizens under control. He claimed the best type of government was one that had the awesome power of a leviathan or a sea monster. In Hobbes' view, such a government was an absolute monarchy, which could impose law and order and demand obedience of individuals who would otherwise be destructive towards society. John Locke, on the other hand, had a very contrasting view of people. He believed that people could learn from experience and improve themselves. As reasonable beings, people have the natural ability to govern their own affairs and look after the welfare of society. Locke criticized absolute monarchies and favored the idea of self-government. According to Locke, all people are born free and equal with three natural rights: life, liberty, and property. The purpose of government, according to Locke, is to protect these rights, and if a government fails to do so, Locke believed citizens had a right to overthrow it. Locke's theory had a deep influence on modern political thinking. These ideas of government by popular consent and the right to rebel against unjust rulers help inspire struggles for liberty in both Europe and the Americas. The Enlightenment reached its peak in France around the mid-1700s, with Paris as the meeting place for those who wished to discuss political ideas. These enlightened thinkers, or social critics, were called Philosophes. These philosophers believed that people could apply reason to all aspects of life, just as Sir Isaac Newton applied reason to science. Philosophes believed heavily in 5 major concepts. 1. Enlightened thinkers believed that truth could be discovered through reason and logical thinking. 2. Philosophes believed that what was natural was also good and reasonable. 3. Philosophers rejected the medieval notion that people should just look forward to heaven or the afterlife, and urged people to seek well-being here on earth. 4. Philosophers stressed that society and humankind could improve. And 5. The Philosophes called for liberties, such as the ones the English people won in their Glorious Revolution and in the American Bill of Rights. One of the greatest and most influential of the Philosophes was Voltaire. He constantly criticized the clergy, the aristocracy, and the government through satire. For example, there was a terrible earthquake in Portugal, and many declared that the earthquake was God's way of expressing how displeased he was with society and their sins. Voltaire, however, was very quick to point out that the earthquake destroyed more churches than brothels. His sharp tongue made him enemies at the French court, and was sent to prison multiple times. And although he made powerful enemies, Voltaire never stopped fighting for tolerance, reason, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech. Other influential writers include Baron de Montesquieu, who devoted himself to the study of political liberty. He believed that England was the best governed and most politically balanced country of this time. The members of Parliament had legislative power, they made the laws of the land. The British king and his ministers had executive power, they carried out the laws. And the judges of the English courts had judicial power. They interpreted the laws to see how each applied to a specific case. He called this division of power among different branches the separation of powers, something that we here in America adopted. Another enlightened thinker, Rousseau, was also passionately committed to individual freedoms and claimed that civilization corrupted man's natural goodness. He argued that all people are equal and the idea of nobility should not exist, something the French will truly take to heart soon. Writers such as Beccaria argued for the rights of witnesses and suspected criminals, protesting the use of torture in the criminal justice systems and the abolition of the death penalty. And we'll also see courageous women such as Mary Wollstonecraft, who argued that a woman's education was just as important as a man's. Wollstonecraft even encouraged women to study in male-dominated fields such as medicine and law. And these are just a few of the many influential people who existed during this enlightened time period. Enlightened writers challenged very old ideas about society. They debated topics such as unequal social classes, the bond between church and state, and the idea of the divine right to rule that absolute monarchs claimed. The Enlightenment encouraged three main beliefs. First, belief in progress, that human beings could use reason to solve social problems. Two, a more secular outlook on life, or a more non-religious outlook on life. Remember, from the scientific revolution, many people right now are thinking, well, if the church was wrong about the earth being the center of the universe, what else could they be wrong about? And three, the importance of the individual. Philosophes encouraged individuals to use their own reasoning to determine what is right and wrong. The Enlightenment was more of an idea, not necessarily an action of reform, but an encouragement of reform or change. These thoughts from the Enlightenment will echo across the world and lead to action. Action will be taken in the form of revolutions, such as the French taking Rousseau's idea about abolishing the nobility, and the English colonists taking many ideas from John Locke and establishing the United States of America. The Enlightenment will lead to these revolutions, which is where we'll find ourselves in class the next few days. So, I will see you guys then.